Outdrawn by Deanna Gray. This one is pretty good. I like the vibes a lot. It is a rivals to lovers romance novel about comic book artists. Our two main characters have a lot of history. They went to art school together where they were not quite friends, but they sort of knew each other. They had a weird thing where they would like draw in each other's notebooks and then like not talk about it. They were kind of flirty, but not really, and they were also kind of like in competition with each other, trying to be the best at the school. This takes place several years later. They have both graduated, and they are still in competition on this website, like a comic website, like webtoons. I don't read comic websites, but it's like webtoons. It's like an independent artist. You can post your stories, and then people read them and rank them, and you can get to like the top of the leaderboards and get a lot of attention on your art. They're both really well known on the site. They both have really popular stories. And they both end up getting hired at the same comic book company. One of our characters has worked there for a while. Her name is Sage. She is the older of the two. She's like a couple years older, but she's been working at this company for 7 years. And then our other main character is Noah, who has just got scouted by this company because of her comic online. They brought her in, and she is set to now work with Sage on a comic. They're both like the co-leads of this revitalized comic line about this lady. It doesn't matter. I mean, it does, but not for the explanation I'm going to give you in this video. However, Noah didn't realize that she was going to be a co-head artist on this, and Sage definitely didn't realize that they were bringing in someone new to like share her spot. And she's kind of mad about it because she's been working here for 7 years. This comic company also keeps shooting down all of her original ideas for like new stories. And like they've kind of like taken some of her ideas for another like more popular series of comics that they own, and we're sort of in like the lesser known comic side of this is what we're working on. So they have this old IP, but they're like revitalizing it, and it's not their most popular product. So the job situation's kind of tense for both of these people, and so their relationship immediately is tense. And then they have all this history, this sort of unspoken history that they've never talked about and they don't want to talk about. So we do get a good amount of like rivals here. It's not too long before it starts getting a little flirty. I will say like the lines of when this sort of turns from rivals to not rivals is like a little blurry. There was never like a moment for me where I was like, oh, maybe this is a little something more. Maybe they have some chemistry. Just kind of felt like every once in a while they would sort of randomly flirt, or one of them would randomly be like, she's kind of cute, even though they were just arguing about something. You know what I mean? So like the transition from rivals to relationships here is kind of weird, but like whatever. The relationship is cute. They work well together. They're both artists. They have a lot of similar goals. They're both very ambitious. So they're learning to work on this comic together and work in this environment together. They are also competing in another way. Their webtoon site, their comic site, is doing this very unrealistic thing, if I'm gonna be honest. I don't know how believable this was. So one day they log onto the site, everything's gone. And the site is like, don't worry, we have all the stuff, it's stored on servers, but we're doing something different. We're gonna hold a competition, and like whoever wins the competition gets some money, and then like a publishing deal to like turn this into their own kind of thing. Whatever. And so everyone on the site is meant to, start a new comics, and it's like a month-long competition with as many chapters as you want, and whoever gets to the rankings at the end of the week, the top people advance, and then like the bottom 10% get cut until, it's only the best of the best in the final week. Which is cool. I like the idea of this competition, and both of the girls enter the competition. They both really want to win. They want the money. They want their own comic. But I don't know why any website would take away all of the content, years and years and years worth of web series off of their website. Do you know how much traffic you would lose? Because presumably people aren't just reading the newest things, and people can read the newest things, but someone was in the middle of a series and they are so fucking pissed that they won't be able to finish that series for like 6 months until this fucking competition is over. Holy shit, I'd be mad. Like, imagine if AO3 just took down everything and then was like, actually, we're running a fanfiction competition. You can read that 300,000 word slow burn enemies to lovers AU fic that you were halfway through in 6 months. No, you'd be so pissed. There would be an uproar. Everyone would be complaining. And like, why can't you just keep all of the content on your site and then also do the competition? I don't think we need to take away all of the other content. And as far as I'm aware, like, there is an ability to monetize this, so artists can put some of their stuff behind a paywall, and then people can pay and like read the rest of the comics, and that's how some of the comics make money. And presumably the site would get a cut of that. And so if you take that away, you are losing so much traffic, which I imagine would bring in some sort of ad revenue, and would just promote foot traffic that would possibly lead to sales from people buying these paywall comics. You would lose so much money. Why would you do this? Why would any website do this? This is a terrible business model, and also terrible for the artists who are like, so like my paywall story, it's like, y'all can't read that. I can't make any money for 6 months unless I win this competition. But if you don't win, you don't get any money from that. So like, what if you're relying on that income as a small artist, and then all of a sudden, nope. That'd be real fucking unfortunate. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter. It's a romance novel. I mean, it does kind of matter. And presumably, like, at least I know Noah has paid comics, so like, is she like, fuck you, that's my monthly income. Whatever. She has a job now as a real comic artist on a real comic book, I guess. But I like seeing them compete both in their professional life and then their personal artistic life. There is a lot of art here. I think these characters sort of bring out the best in each other, or like, they're both competitive, and so the fact that they have competition makes them want to get even better, and they both like secretly admire each other's work. Neither of them really wants to admit it because they want to think that they're better, but they do really enjoy each other's work, and they also get each other as artists. So both of these characters are pushing themselves farther than they need to. Like, Noah is getting carpal tunnel, but she's like, no, it's fine, like, I have to draw. This is important. All of the areas in my life require drawing. I'm gonna push through it, which is not good, and Sage knows that, and like, can sort of help her with that. And then Noah helps Sage through like some of her family problems, and also her art problems with like, this company doesn't respect her, and she's been here for years, and they're just like not taking her seriously, even though she's a very good artist. So they understand each other in a way that not a lot of other people do, which is cute. I like that. One thing I did not love, I read this on audiobook. One of these narrators is better than the other. Sandra Simone is not my favorite audiobook narrator. I heard her voice in this, and I was like, this is the lady that did Moth Eater. And then I googled who did the audiobook for Moth Eater, and it wasn't Sandra Simone, but it was a name that I don't remember right now, but both the first and last name also started with the letter S. And I was like, that's suspicious. That's weird. So I invented a conspiracy theory that this was the same narrator using 2 different names. And then I googled it, and it's the same narrator using 2 different names. She very just publicly uses 2 different names. So, conspiracy confirmed. It pays to be delusional, kids. This was better narrated than Moth Eater was. Moth Eater is a book about an Appalachian witch. She does a questionably distracting Appalachian accent in that audiobook. And she also has this very naturally upbeat sort of cadence to the way she speaks that it made that book sound more lighthearted than it was, which was not a good fit for that particular book. I think that this book would have been better, this audiobook would have been better if the narrators had swapped perspectives. I think Sandra Simone should have done Noah's voice, because Noah is a bit more peppy a bit. She's like the pretty femme one. She has a better family life. It's not like perfect. Her parents don't really understand her drawing, and they see it as just like a silly little hobby. But Sage has a much more fraught backstory, we'll say, or family life, not really backstory because it's actively happening. But like, her mother was in a car accident and is disabled, and her father struggles with alcoholism, and her brothers are really bad with money and like stealing money from her and like getting into trouble with the law. And so I wish that that person, Sage, had the more serious voice. The other audiobook narrator was a bit more serious. Her name was Julianne Irons, and I think she could have done Sage a little better, and then Sandra Simmons would have been a better fit for Noah. But I'll say Sandra Simmons was mostly fine for most of this narration. There was one glaring problem, and that was Noah's voice. When Julia Irons is narrating Noah from Noah's perspective, she sounds like a normal person, and when Sandra Simone is doing Noah's dialogue from Sage's perspective, she sounds like this. My name's Noah. My nickname is Pastel. Do you think this voice fits me? I don't know why I sound like that. No offense to anybody who sounds like that, but this was definitely a choice. And you know what? It was a little bit distracting. Potentially forgivable. Until we get to the sex scenes, no. No. Are you ready for the toy? I'm not ready. I'm not ready for the toy. No. Get away from me.
Kind of wish you were grinding against my face instead.
It did make me laugh in the middle of the sex scenes, and they shouldn't have made me laugh. It shouldn't have. That wasn't the author's intent. It was distracting. It was distracting. I don't know why that happened. I don't know why that was the character direction. I don't know if they had, like, a director who could have told her, why don't we try out a different voice for this character? The other narrator is reading her as if she's a normal person with just a normal voice that you wouldn't think to comment on. But Sandra Simone said, absolutely not. She kind of narrated her the way she kind of narrates some of the other men in the story. I wonder if she saw the name Noah and was like, this is a man. She's not a man. I mean, she would have immediately picked up on that real quick. That she'd made a mistake and then maybe been like, oh, let me alter this. Not Sandra Simone. She committed. That was a choice. Not the author's fault. Really not the biggest fault in the world. I do think the Appalachian accent in Moth Eater was worse than this. But this was occasionally distracting. And it's not just me. I looked at the reviews for this book, and a couple of people mentioned that they did not like that narrator, and specifically mentioned Noah's voice. That was something. So I think I'd recommend reading this as a text. At least the sex scenes. It does take away some of the enjoyment of the sex scenes when you laugh at the characters in the middle of it. That's not what you want. That's not what the author wanted. But ignoring the audiobook problems, which were like minimal, it wasn't unlistenable. But ignoring the audiobook problems, this was pretty good. I do think this isn't one that'll like really stick with me. I was hoping it would be just a little bit better because I'd heard of this book several times, and I see this get recommended a lot, and it is good, and I would recommend it. But I think I just was expecting like a little too much just because I'd heard so much about it. I think even someone on my channel once commented that I should read this. You were right, I should read this, and it is a good book, and I'd heard about it before they even said that. But yeah, it mostly lived up to the hype and my expectations. For some reason, I think when I first saw this, I thought it was like a YA novel. No, again, not a YA novel. I think I just assumed they were in art class. I don't read descriptions of books, like 90% of the time. I just see two women on the cover of the book, and I'm like, yes, add to TBR, we'll listen. It was about lesbians. So I just assumed, art class in school or something. It wasn't that. But it's pretty good, pretty well structured, except for like those moments where like, I couldn't tell when it was blending from rivals into romance. That was like murky for some weird reason. But I liked it. Well structured. Clear like end goals with like this competition online and like who's going to win, and like a good through line of their relationship and like understanding each other and their problems exacerbating until they have to take care of them. Yeah, good themes, good execution on them, like simple but straightforward. There's a few side characters. I didn't care that much, but like they're fine. They work. That's about it. I mostly wanted to talk about the narrator. So worth a read. Maybe not an audiobook, but worth a read.